Hello, and welcome to this edition of the Adobe Think Tank on Artificial Intelligence and the Future of the Enterprise. I am Daya Nadamuni with Adobe's Corporate Strategy team, and with me here today is Dr. Anand Rao, Partner and Global Artificial Intelligence Innovation Lead at PwC. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here. Yeah.
Great to have you here. So, Anand, yesterday you had a great definition of artificial intelligence, and I would love it if you could repeat that for our viewers.
Yeah. Artificial intelligence has been around for a long time, so I tried to use the more classic definition. It's a 60-year definition. I know people try and reinterpret AI in different ways. For us, it's very simple. Any computer system that can sense the environment and sense the world, can think about the environment and act in this environment, working with people, working with other machines, other computer systems, but achieving a certain purpose or goal. So that's what we say is artificial intelligence, sense, think, and act. And then it's very much an umbrella term for a number of things. So when you talk about sensing, now we can have the AI essentially hear us, can understand English language, documents, or speech, can look at images. So all of that goes into sensing. So natural language processing, computer vision, speech processing, all of that. And then we have machine learning, deep learning, all part of thinking. And then similarly, robotics and process automation all go into the acting piece. So that's the way we think about it, as a very umbrella term for a number of technologies within that.
Okay, and of course there's lots of innovation in each of those technology areas.
Things have moved very fast, especially on the sensing side, thinking side, everywhere. I think there's quite a lot of advances in AI, which is essentially caught the excitement of people and enterprises as well.
So in your role at PwC, you interact with a lot of large brands and enterprises that are all trying to figure out how to leverage artificial intelligence as part of their digital strategy, consumer experience strategy. What advice would you give?
It's a good question. So everywhere we go, they say, where do we start? So we want to do something in AI, but where do we start? And our advice to them is, don't worry too much about AI. Start with where you have the most pressing problems. So look at your existing organization, and almost every organization has some kind of a transformation already going on. So we come to AI through a number of different channels. So one could be, as you said, a digital transformation or a customer-centric transformation. Through that, you can come into AI. For example, as you start digitizing, obviously you have lots of data. Lots of data means two things to us. So with lots of data comes standardization, simplification, and automation, right? So there are a number of organizations which are looking at internal processes and how to automate them. And as you automate them, you come into natural language processing and text documentation and all of those, which leads you to better cost savings. So that's one channel. The other channel with more data, as we have seen a number of consumer-oriented companies do, is you can start personalizing the experience for customers, right? So once you personalize, you're differentiating your value proposition. Whether it's for the consumer or even to the businesses, you can do mass-scale personalization, which means better revenue, better retention, better experience. So that's more a revenue angle. So you can approach it in either of those ways, but we always say start with some existing problem, existing transformation that you're doing, and to us it's essentially a continuum, whether it's an automation continuum or an analytics continuum. So at some point things become more advanced and people tend to call it AI because it's using different types of data or large volumes of data. It is learning. When those things start happening, somehow the term goes into AI.
So it sounds like it should be data first, and then incrementally build on that.
That's right.
Add AI where it makes the most sense into your current processes, until at this point in time, really have technology across the spectrum of your workflows.
Yeah, that's right.
And go ahead.
And one of the other main things is the difference between traditional technology and AI is AI machine learning especially. There's sort of more experimentation. So we call it exploration and exploitation. So in exploitation, it's sort of very similar to traditional software, but there is a big exploration component where you get a lot of data, train the system, try if it works or not. So in that sense, it is different to traditional software development, but it can still be embedded within a broader organizational setup.
That's a very interesting point. So do you see AI disrupting the way software is developed today? Are we likely to change the way, the workflows and the processes?
Yes. Yeah, so there's some interesting comments made by a number of people that the software is eating the world, and AI is eating the software world, and one would possibly argue that machine learning is eating the AI world. So in that sense, people are looking at the traditional software development is very much you needed to know everything and write a line by line piece of code, whereas in machine learning you are feeding it a lot of data. So both the input as well as the output data, and the system is then finding the patterns. It's not literally writing a program as a human being would, but it is looking for patterns within the data, and then any new data that comes in, it's able to use its model, as they say, and then say what that data should be, or classify it, or do it.
So it's disrupting, or it's sort of changing the way we're doing lots of
Yes.
different workflows, customer
Yes.
experience, the way we develop software, and probably and also the way we use, employee productivity,
Yes.
probably business workflows.
That's
There's
right.
going to be disruptions everywhere.
Yes.
So
Yeah, so AI is what they call as a general purpose technology, so it affects every enterprise and every function within every enterprise, just as computer systems affected almost every industry, starting from the 1970s and 80s. Internet started affecting almost every walk of life and every business and every functional area. So now we have AI because it is essentially making some of the decisions and some of the tasks that we do, automate them, or in some cases augment what we are doing. So in that sense, it's sort of very general purpose. So it'll have a far-reaching impact into what the enterprises do, not just now, but at least for the foreseeable 10-year, 20-year future. We are going to be having AI embedded in almost every enterprise application. So we may not be talking about AI explicitly 5 years from now, but it'll all be embedded.
So, which brings up another good point. As AI starts to get, more deeply embedded into our corporate cultures and productivity workflows, there is concern that this may lead to loss of jobs. Do you have any suggestions of how
Yeah.
enterprises can mitigate
That's
this?
right, yeah. Yes, I know a lot of people are worried about jobs. So there's sort of two-part answer to this. So at one level, when you look at it from a global employment perspective or a US employment perspective, what we believe, and a number of people believe this, is yes, there will be job losses, but the number of jobs that will be created will be far more than the number of jobs that are lost. And we did a recent study where we were able to quantify this as the increase in productivity is only 40% of it, so that will result in some job losses. But 60% of it would be increased consumption and increased demand coming in from people consuming more, whether it's consumers or businesses. So in that sense, it's a positive story. But for someone who is doing very manual, repetitive work, their jobs will be lost, right? So we as a society need to worry about how do we retrain them, reskill them, or if you're unable to do that, what kind of a support system we can provide for those kinds of people. So the new jobs will be in a different area to the jobs that are being lost. So that's where I think at a micro level, it is still an issue that a lot of governments are tackling with this AI wave coming. And at the macro level, I think economies should be growing with more consumption.
That's a great perspective. So I understand you're going to be giving a talk on AI and how it's applied to gaming. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, so this is something that we have been doing for almost 10 years now. And this goes back to, we have all seen great advances in AI in the gaming world. So we beat the chess, the Jeopardy champion, and then now recently Go, and the Go systems now don't even need human provided data. They just take the rules of the game and are able to master everything. So we looked at all of that and said, that's all great, but what use does it have in the enterprise world?
True.
So what we have been doing for quite some years now is taking any strategic problem and converting that into a game. So businesses always are competing in this environment where they want to increase their market share or increase their valuation. So it's essentially a game against others in the industry in any particular sector. So if you can take that and convert it into a game where there are a number of players, you are essentially playing for one particular company, but you can model other companies as well. You can model the greater economy, you can model the environment. Then the executives, we call it a CEO cockpit. Instead of you flying an airplane, you're essentially sitting in this simulator and flying your business, going into new markets, pricing it differently, targeting different customers, and seeing how much of revenue you make and how you will react when the competition comes after you in terms of pricing or promotion. So all of that could be converted into a game, so we can start using all of the advances that we have in AI, especially in the games, in terms of reinforcement learning, deep learning, all of that, very much in the enterprise world. So that's the talk about, and we have around 8 or 10 examples where we have actually done this across different industries, and I'll be sharing just a couple of those examples.
Oh, that's fascinating. So actually applying machine learning to game theory.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, exactly, yeah. And that's something people don't think of it as AI. AI has been applied more to operational problems, more at the smaller scale, whereas here we are talking about AI being applied to big bets, as the businesses like to call them.
Wow, and you actually, and you have, like you said, developed models for different industries.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Well, so I guess we're at time. It's been great talking to you, Dr. Rao. And thank you again for tuning in to this edition of Adobe's Think Tank. Please tune in again for more sessions and episodes. Follow us on Twitter. It's #AdobeTT. And thank you.